What's up, guys? I'm Landon from Shoeware, and today we're putting the newest models from LeBron James and Giannis Antetokounmpo's shoe lines with Nike head to head to see how they compare. But really quick, if this is your first time checking us out, feel free to drop a follow or subscribe wherever you're watching and give this video a like. We would of course greatly appreciate that. So just a hit on the box and the price really quick. The LeBron 19s actually have a lot of details going into this black box with all those patterns and stuff. And then, I also thought it was a nice touch how they made that LJ logo kind of see-through on the top. But then for Giannis's shoes, they're going to come in an orange box with his player logo kind of off-centered in that bottom corner. But as for pricing, there is actually a pretty wide margin here, with the LeBrons being the most expensive signature shoe line out there at $200 even. And then the Zoom Freak 3s fall on the cheaper side of the scale at $120. Alright, so checking out the appearance for both of these shoes and starting off with the colorways. Today we have the Nike LeBron 19 sweatsuit versus the Zoom Freak 3 in this Nike color scheme, which is one of the newer colorways released. But looking at the LeBron 19 sweatsuit colorway, which is kind of part of a Space Jam theme, this is actually the first color scheme to hit the market. So if you peel back this top layer, like this overlay, you're going to see some markings on the upper that's actually meant to make out the Nike World headquarters and the Warner Brothers lot. So I did think that that was a pretty sweet touch, like just for this specific shoe. But staying with the LeBron 19 first and looking at more of the model, they did build this shoe up a little bit higher compared to last year's LeBron 18 model. So, it's going to remind me a little bit more of the general structure that a bunch of his shoes have kind of followed in his line from the past. But they are going to take the 3 bubbles off of the LeBron 18 for this 19 model, and I think that it gives these a more like appealing look. And then you also had that little air bubble on the side, on the heel around the ankle, that kind of runs around the back side of the shoe. So I did like that design too. It's kind of fun to mess around with, like you can squeeze it and feel the air inside. So I don't know, maybe it's just fun for me to mess around with. And then on the side of the shoe, you're going to get a little bit of a window into those air units at work. So switching it over to the Zoom Freak 3 now, Nike did add the strap to this year's model that of course wasn't there on the 2, so that is going to give these a nice added touch. They even put his nickname on the inside part of it. So the strap is just always a nice feature to add because it opens up some creative options, I think. But I will say that's really the only piece that they switched on this year's design that I did like. I mean, the reverse swoosh on the side, it's a little bit too small. I mean, it's going to be tough for them to replicate his first shoe with that big reverse swoosh that was like kind of built into the midsole. Like, that was one of my favorite designs for a first signature shoe that I've seen in a while. So I mean, the Zoom Freak 3, it isn't a bad look, but it's still not my favorite. So now getting into more of the performance side of things and looking at how these shoes hold up on the court, I'll start off with the cushioning first. So the LeBron 19 is just really built for cushion. You have a Zoom Air unit in the forefoot of the shoe, which is just going to be that front half, and then that is matched with some thick Max Air units. And these are using a Cushlon foam midsole, which does give you a really soft and springy feel. The impact protection is really solid. So the cushion on the LeBron 19, it's just really been top tier for a while now. But switching it to the Zoom Freak 3s, they did make some improvements to the comfort on this year's design compared to the 2s. So the front half of the shoe is going to be hollowed out, and that is where you have 2 Zoom Air units. They're going to account for most of the soft feel that you have in this shoe. You don't really get a lot of cushion in the back half, like near the heel, but that's not really a huge deal because a lot of your time is spent on your toes anyways. But it's still not going to be anything over the top. But like I said, I think that it is a little more comfortable than last year's model. Alright, so for the materials, there were some pretty big changes to both of these lines. So the LeBron 19 went away from that knit posit design used on the 18s, and they put a few extra pieces on here that I really like. So for starters, you're going to have a transparent flywire cable that kind of extends up from the midsole and goes over that top layer just to kind of lock your foot into the shoe. And these also have a added like inner sleeve that's going to conform to your foot and help with that too. So the laces are going to feed through that outer layer and just give you a pretty tight feel. But switching it over to the Zoom Freak 3s, Nike did of course add that strap for the first time to Giannis's line. But other than that, the materials are pretty solid, but nothing to really brag about. The upper material is really light and the ventilation is really good for your foot. But I will say the support feels a little less impressive on this design kind of because of that. So the materials used just don't give you a super secure feel. Like the upper can move around a little bit. So I will say the shark tooth design that kind of runs along the midsole and it kind of peaks up, that's going to do a good job to kind of help keep your foot in the shoe, and it also acts like as somewhat of an outrigger to give you a wider base. And you know, just looking at the Zoom Freak 3 from the bottom, you can just tell that the surface area, there's just a lot more in the front half of the shoe. So, you know, that's not a bad thing, especially whenever it comes to balance. But for the LeBron 19, I mean, I have to give some props here because they did like a 180-degree switch just from the support on last year's model. So, I mean, I will say I struggled pretty majorly on the support from the LeBron 18s. Like, I was slipping out from the heel, like I was rolling my ankle from slipping out on the side, just all of that. But Nike pretty much took care of those problems on this year's design. So, you know, I already mentioned that inner sleeve kind of paired with the flywire overlay, which is going to play a big role. But, you know, they even added a small outrigger to kind of help brace your foot. So, I mean, I think that also making this year's design a little bit higher is going to help with that, because you can lace this shoe kind of up and around your ankle, and that's just going to help lock your foot into the shoe just a little bit better. So I was definitely impressed with the improvements that they made to this year's model. So to finish off with traction, the LeBron shoe line has always kind of struggled with that like category for the last several years, and you know, they get a little bit better from year to year, and it seems like that's been the trend, and these are going to fall in line with that trend. So the LeBron 19s have a new pattern. It's actually meant to resemble like the LJ crown logo kind of condensed down. And these do grip the floor better than the 18s, just, you know, not by a lot. There's definitely some room for improvement. And, you know, that pretty much segues me perfectly into the Zoom Freak 3s, because, you know, they did fix a few of the inconsistencies from last year's design, but you know, it still didn't go away altogether. And I'm pretty harsh on these computer generated designs because they just never really play well for me. Like the Kyrie 7s and other shoes that do that, I feel the same way about those shoe lines. So, I mean, you have two shoes here that probably could keep making some adjustments and tweaks to get better traction in general. But, you know, as for sizing, these are going to fit true to size. The LeBron 19 is going to actually run more on the narrow side just compared to the Zoom Freak 3. And it's definitely a heavier shoe too. I mean, the Zoom Freak 3 is a lot lighter to play in. So for the final ratings, the LeBron's built off an already solid design. You know, even though it's not really my style of shoe to play in, but that I normally gravitate towards. I just like lower to mid tops, but it's still a pretty clean look. And then for the Zoom Freak 3s, you know, these look nice too with that strap on there, but I still wouldn't say I'm in love with either pair of these shoes for the design. So I'm going to start off the voting with a tie. But as for cushioning, this will be the furthest thing from a tie, with the LeBrons easily taking that category. So, I mean, they give you a really balanced cushioning feel from front to back. The Zoom Freak 3s give you more cushion in the front than the back, and it's, you know, still not going to be as soft as the LeBron 19. And then as for the materials, I do like the strap for this Zoom Freak 3. I like that they added that, but you know, the rest of the materials are sort of downplayed after that. It's just not all this line's fault though. I mean, whenever you're putting a $200 LeBron shoe against a $120 Zoom Freak 3, you know, I would hope that you have some better stuff being used in the LeBrons. But as for the support, you know, kind of like I just said, major props to the LeBron 19 for fixing the plethora. Oh yeah, we're breaking out the Scrabble words for this rating. The plethora of support issues that was on that LeBron 18 design, they fixed that on the 19. While, you know, the Zoom Freak 3s, they did take a small step back here. So I think the upper on the 2s, it just gave you a little more sturdy feel than the 3s, even without the strap. But to finish off with the traction, you know, honestly, these lines have some work to do here. I'd say both maybe got a little bit better than their previous models. So it looks like I'm going to end this section with a tie too, but that is going to lead to the LeBron 19 pretty much wiping the floor with the Zoom Freak 3s. I mean, the LeBrons, I mean, this new shoe is going to offer some premium cushioning, just like a really soft feel. The materials and the support to match that cushioning with, you know, a traction setup that will hopefully kind of come along for the ride someday. But, you know, just in case you want a more in-depth review on each one of these shoes, we do have individual reviews live where I go a little deeper into these models. So, you know, feel free to check that out. And then if you're interested in purchasing one or both of these shoes, just go ahead and check out the links in the description below. But also feel free to leave a comment if you like this video, or just, you know, let us know any other shoes you may want us to check out. But until next review, I'm Landon from Shoeware. Peace. Yes, out of eyes trying to put me on a t-shirt. Shorty want me so bad, do your knees hurt?